Good morning, good afternoon, and thanks for attending the Oracle Integration webinar. Thanks for joining our quarterly webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, team member of the Oracle Product Management. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available at Oracle Video Hub, including presentation for download. In today's presentation, Niall will update us on the latest Oracle integration features and also introduce the Oracle integration for healthcare. Good afternoon, Niall.
Hello, Jürgen. How are you doing?
Excellent. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a bit wet where I am, but that's just the way of the world. It's that time of the year.
Welcome to Germany.
Yes.
Do you plan, or which live demos do you plan today?
Oh, we're going to be looking at publishing OIC endpoints to the API gateway. We're going to also have a demo for healthcare. And it'll be a couple of other things that I will show folks as we progress through the webcast.
Cool, let's get started. So Oracle Integration 3 connects SaaS services like HCM, CX, and ERP with adapters or custom-built applications via SOAP or REST. In the latest iPaaS Gartner Magic Quadrant, Oracle is ranked as the leader. Our objective of today's call is to provide you the information to adapt the latest version and to introduce new features. Please pay attention to the safe harbor statement as we talk also about future functionality. Quick housekeeping, today's session is live and this presentation is being recorded. Please feel free to post your questions via the conference Q&A tool in the Zoom console. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides and an on-demand webcast will be posted at Oracle Video Hub. We will post announcement links in the conference chat. Please complete the online survey at the end of the webinar. For today's agenda, I will update you with the latest announcements and then hand over to Niall for the new features and live demos. We will also talk about Fusion event monitoring and healthcare integration. So let's get started. Oracle Cloud World was an excellent conference. Keynotes and the highlights webcasts are available at the Oracle website. You can also download the presentations at the sessions catalog or via the community website. Join us for the next Customer Success webcast on January 10th. Wind Consulting will talk about a success story where they implemented ERP Cloud and connected it and innovated legacy technology. Please register at bit.ly/OIC Success January 2024. Oracle integration is part of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure free trial program. You can build, test, and deploy Oracle integration and connect your applications. The trial is valid for up to 30 days. Most important, please read the documentation and make use of the labs. If you build a demo with the free trial, you can find that Live Labs workshop material. Who are the integration experts to support your customer project? System integrators like Accenture implement 8 of the top 10 Oracle integration projects. Choose a certified partner with references to replicate your success. At Partner Finder, you can search for partners in your region. And at Cloud Marketplace, you can search also for applications and pre-built recipes for Oracle integration. Questions, need support, collaborate at Oracle Cloud Customer Connect. In discussion forums, you can share your knowledge, engage with industry experts, and network with peers. You can submit your innovations and earn personal badges. Today's webcast is recorded and will be published at Oracle Video Hub. Please subscribe to receive the latest updates. For regular information, please subscribe to the Oracle Integration newsletter. The quarterly updates from our team include the latest product information, events, success stories, white papers, and trainings. With that short introduction, over to you, Niall.
Okay, great. First of all, welcome everybody, and thank you for making the time so close to the holidays. And so without further ado, let's go in and let's look at OIC 2312. Now, just to reiterate, OCI has all of the services you need to build, run, and scale. And of course, integration is a key part of the OCI services. But just again to mention, there are a plethora of other OCI services which can be very useful to you when you're implementing your integration use cases. be it AI for intelligent document routing, be it, serverless functions, OCI streaming, object storage, etc. There's a rich set of OCI services available to you easily from OIC. So before we look at 23.12, let's have a look at a couple of the highlights from the two previous releases. Now, 23.10, we saw the release of our limited availability release, I should say, of our healthcare component. So there will be an OIC for healthcare SKU available soon, but the software is available in limited availability mode. If you need access to it, please just contact Jürgen or myself. Here we're looking at HL7 document processing, and we will see how that works and which components we've added to OIC in the OIC for healthcare section coming later. We see as well in respect of observability. Now, this is something very close to my heart, but over the last couple of releases, we've done amazing things in respect of observability. So OIC monitoring has been renamed observability within OIC 3. And we've added new features like more detailed endpoint metrics and OIC activity stream. So this is showing you exactly how long did that invoke to, for example, Fusion ERP take. We're quite used to seeing the metrics for, how long did the integration flow take, but within that, how long did the individual invokes take? And that is available now. And of course, we introduced OIC events. Very, very similar to what we had in Gen 2 with Pub Sub, very similar to what we had in SOA Suite with Event Delivery Network. And we've now got an observability page for those OIC events, so you can see who is subscribing or which integrations are subscribing to which events. Another nice feature in respect of observability is the ability to change the trace level when resubmitting errored integrations. So my integration is running in production mode, so to speak, from a trace perspective. It hits an error and I want to resubmit it, but I want more details in respect of troubleshooting. So I can resubmit that in debug mode, for example. And of course, we have other features added. Timeout session management within mapping with the XSL for each group, things like that. Support for XSL copy of in the mapper, which makes it much easier to map structures of similar structures, source to target in one mapping operation as opposed to mapping all the individual components there. But net, like with every release of OIC, we're getting great new functionality. And remember, those releases are happening every 2 months. So in respect now, there's an awful lot of information on these pages, and you'll be able to go through these slides. You'll be able to go through these at your leisure later. But just to give you the feeling that we are producing every release new adapters and enhancements to existing adapters. And 2308 and 2310 saw the release of IaaS adapters, but for Azure and Google. So we are seeing that our customers do have multi-cloud strategies, and we're just making it easy for them to integrate the different components hosted on those clouds using OIC. Another nice adapter that has just been released is the Zuora adapter, Confluent adapter, and so on. And another compelling adapter, GraphQL, has been released as well. And as you say, there's often enhancements to existing adapters. So it's not just a case the adapter is produced and that's it. Those adapters, when needs be, are augmented with new features that have been provided by the vendor, for example. Another interesting feature that we've released, and maybe more interesting for partners, but maybe for customers as well, is RAB. It's the Rapid Adapter Builder, enabling you to develop your own adapters in a declarative mode. So you can well imagine you have your team of integration developers. There are some apps that you need to integrate with. Some of those apps don't have adapters, dedicated adapters in OIC. So your developers would have to use the REST adapter, for example. But you can very easily create your own dedicated adapters for those REST resources. And that adapter will be surfaced within OIC itself. So again, we see this as a great play for partners, but there may be customers or maybe some of you out there who like the idea as well. Other things that we're looking at there, of course, are with pre-built solutions. There's always, more recipes and accelerators being delivered. And of course, this is always a great starting point for you folks when you get a new, integration requirement. Just check first, is there a recipe or an accelerator for such? Because of course, that can give you really a turbocharged start on your integration development. So the integration plan of record. So what we're looking at, what's happening now and coming up very soon. From an OIC3 migration perspective, now we all know OIC Gen 2, most customers are still on that. The upgrade to OIC3 will be happening, or is already happening, but will be progressing over the next 6 to 9 months, so to speak. And of course, there were some parity questions there, parity issues, but visual builder apps can now be upgraded to OIC3 automatically through our upgrade process. The pub sub upgrade, and this pub sub upgrade from Gen 2, of course, that'll be morphing into the OIC events I just talked about in OIC3. That's on the roadmap for one of the next releases, as well as the process upgrade. So many of our Gen 2 customers have been using process, and of course, to give those customers a transparent upgrade to process within OIC3. From an observability perspective, there is a notification of status of async operations. Now, I'll show that to you. But essentially, it's just saying, okay, things that are happening in the background, for example, you're importing a project and that sort of stuff. It's just giving you a notification window on those sort of things that are happening. So we have the alarms and we have the notifications. Within the OIC pages, 2 icons up at the very top of the screen that you can click on to see what's going on in that respect. Healthcare we'll be talking about later. But let's look at the automation platform. This is the core OIC. So what are the new features that we are very proud of in 23.12? Well, of course, the one is there. The first one is published to API gateway. So I'll show you exactly how that is working. But essentially, it's giving us the more than what we had in Gen 2. Like within OIC Gen 2, we had the ability to publish to the OCI API gateway. However, every time you published an endpoint, that surfaced as a deployment within the gateway. Now, the OCI gateway can have up to 20 deployments. So if you were using this liberally in the Gen 2 environment, you soon ran out of deployments. However, each deployment can have up to 50 routes. So conceivably, you could host up to 1,000 APIs via one gateway instance. And we have made use of that with our implementation of publishing to the API gateway within OIC3. And we look at that in depth later. Another great new feature there is, and it's a parity feature as well, the ability to export, do a global export from OIC3 and, push that, the metadata, whatever, to object storage, and then at some later stage, maybe import that into another OIC environment or restore it into your current environment. 23.12 also sees from a B2B perspective Rosetta Net support. We look at that as well later, as well as REST transport support. There have been project enhancements, and this is the ability to, for example, copy integrations from the global space into a specific project, or copy integrations from one project to another. Now, going forward, we see, and many customers are asking about it, is the ability to share connections between projects. And that's something that'll be in one of our next releases. The idea here being, okay, very, very nice to have these projects, and we do have the separation of duties with the projects. However, there will be often the case where we have common enterprise systems of records, and it would be better to have one set of connections for them that all projects can share. So that's what we're bringing in 24.02 probably. Also, custom endpoints, that'll be with us very soon. And another compelling new feature we're looking at is the ability to test integrations from the canvas. So instead of having to save, activate, and then test, just within the canvas itself, you've added a couple of actions to your integration. Just click the test button. All of that happens under the hood for you, and you can just test that within your design time there. So that's another compelling feature that's on the way. Again, we're seeing here a huge amount of data in respect of connectivity and the pre-built integrations. But again, just giving you the feeling here, there's an awful lot going on here. And of course, many of these new adapters, most of these new adapters, they've been driven by customer requests. So if you do have requests for specific adapters, please let us know. Or specific functionality in general for OIC, please let us know, because that is what's driving our engineering teams. So we can see a new adapters on the way for AWS and for Google BigQuery. 2312, we've delivered the Rosetta Net adapter, and of course this is required for the B2B Rosetta Net implementation there. Other adapters that are on their way: Asana, Stripe, Coupa, Spend Management, and Salesforce for its REST support and so on. You can see here, of course, there's strengthening of current adapters, security improvements for many of these adapters. So we do often have enhancements in respect of new functionality for the adapters, but again, you can see here also security improvements. I mentioned the Rapid Adapter Builder, the ability to create your own adapters declaratively in OIC. And 2312 will allow us, again, this is something that's under limited availability. So if you are interested in such functionality, please contact Jürgen or myself. And the idea is, of course, going forward is to have partners publishing these on the marketplace and or the Oracle integration store, and that you as customers can then leverage those adapters as well. Another things we're looking at there as well is to support identity propagation from source to target SaaS applications. Now, this is something that many customers are looking for, and that will be with us very, very soon. I won't go through all of these things here. Maybe to note the pre-built solutions. Again, with every release, we're getting more of these pre-builts, which could be recipes or accelerators. The main difference between the two is a recipe is, okay, take it, use and abuse to your heart's content, whereas a recipe or whereas an accelerator is more tied down. There are certain areas that you can change within that integration. And of course, those accelerators will be upgrade secure. That's the reason that they are locked down to a certain extent, so to speak. But I think it's very, very important to note that really is a big push for us. The whole area of pre-builds, be it recipes or accelerators. Now, this is another new feature that I just wanted to cover it here because of the fact that it was 2310.1. So the last time I think we talked was in September. So I might have been discussing what's coming in 2310, but this was essentially 2310.1 new feature, which is allow listing. So as you can see here, within your OCI console, you go to the OIC page and then you click on network access. And then you can go in there and edit and add up to 15 rules for file saver and up to 15 rules for your HTTPS connections to your OIC instance. Now, of course, this sits on top of the authorization that you have out of the box with OIC today, of course. But just to let you know that this allow listing is now available there via the network access link here on the OCI page for OIC. Now, let's look at publishing endpoints to the OCI API gateway. Now, I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to demo this to you. So Jürgen, please tell me if my screen is visible to you here still. Yes? Jürgen, we're still visible?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So I'm just here within a project, as you can see, folks. And when I see this integration here that I've just created, it's in a project called NetSuite, and it's called Create Sales Order. I have Create Supplier, I've got Create Contact and Create Customer already in there. And if I look down here, you can see here, these are the menu options. Now I click on Activate. And I say Activate Production. Now we're going ahead, it's activating away. Now we click on this guy here, and now we see the publish to the API gateway. So just to mention here, folks, if you want your integration to be publishable to the API gateway, that's a new verb. When you create it within your project, you have to click here to make it kind of a public integration. Check that box, available to other projects. If you don't do that, you won't see the publish to API gateway once you've activated that integration. So just a hint there, you have to click that box there. But let's go back in here and we say create sales order. So I'm going in here, publish to the API gateway. Now, as you can see here, there's the one endpoint there. And then I select my compartment. My compartment here is this guy. And then I selected gateway. So I have multiple gateways, test that gateway. And then I look here at the deployments. And here you can see these are existing deployments. So I can create a deployment here as well myself, or else I could have these deployments already created on my gateway. Now, there may be some folks who might like to go in there and say, you know what, I'll set up the gateway structure to begin with for the deployments. Now, just think of these deployments are like folders for your OIC endpoints or your OIC APIs. Now, I created a few deployments like CX, Supplier, NetSuite, and okay, this test here. But you can have them, yeah, whatever suits you. Could be functional requirements. They could be maybe security driven, you know, internal, external, or whatever you want. But within each of these deployments, you're going to have up to 50 routes. So let's go back in here. And in this case, we will take NetSuite, okay? Because this is here. And you see the path prefix NetSuite. So I click on publish here. As you say, this guy is publishing to the API gateway. Now, while that's publishing, let's look at the other folks in here. So let's go to NetSuite. And we see in here, edit. And you see the different routes here. So there's the customer one. The next route here is for the contact. The next route here will be then for our sales order then as well then. Okay. So you will see these guys here. Now, once this guy has been, like, I'm just clicking this again just to show you, it's probably still publishing. Yeah, it's still publishing. So let's look at one of the other ones, for example, customer. And I click here and I say publish to the API gateway. You'll see here, okay, here I can actually copy the endpoint URL for this. So the endpoint URL would be, for example, here we are in create customer. This would be something that I could then use in Postman, for example, to invoke this integration. So like if I can just go in here and I just click on this guy, and you see here, okay, it created a customer, and okay, this, I've hard coded this in the integration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you get the idea. So it's going to OIC, but via the gateway. And there is where I could actually just kind of copy that endpoint URL. This one here, clicking here will bring me to this deployment. So instead of having to navigate through the OCI menus, I could just go click here. And as you see here as well, I have also got the possibility to do an undo publish. So the full life cycle support here. Now, as I say, this is much more than what we had in Gen 2, and I'm very proud of what we've actually accomplished here with this. So I'll just go back in here to create sales order, click on publish to API, and we see all of the data here again. And as I say, very, very simple. We look over here, we can go back up to this level, say maybe just cancel that, go back into the gateway details, go back into NetSuite, and go and click on edit. And we see here our routes, and there's customer, we see there's contact, and we see there's order. That's for the sales order that I just created here as well. And as you see, there's the link to there's the backend URL, so to speak, for OIC there. Okay. And naturally enough here, this is where you can add your, if we look at the routing rules, you can actually go in here and you can show, you know, these are the possible request policies that you could have and something like that, or response policies and so on. So think of this as a request pipeline, response pipeline, where you can add policies to maybe do some extra processing. One of the things that could be done there, for example, is you have a no-auth token that gives access from Postman to or from the client to the gateway, and then the gateway invokes an OCI function to go and get an OIC token and then just replace that in the header. Now that's something that you can implement today, and that's something that should be available out of the box as one of the policies, so to speak, going forward within the API gateway. Now, another nice thing about the API gateway is when you do have this sort of, let's look back here. If you have these deployments here, you get great statistics in OCI logging analytics for these as well, because there's out-of-the-box dashboards there for API gateway as well as for OIC. And then it shows very succinctly, you know, how many requests are going to the gateway for suppliers, for NetSuite, and so on. So from your holistic observability requirements, this could be very, very interesting for you, because you could be exposing a subset of your OIC APIs to third parties via the gateway. And you want some insight into that view, just, you know, the third parties coming in. And that's one thing you could get with the OCI logging analytics dashboard for the API gateway. Okay, so we've looked at that, and I will go back to my slides now. Let's click on the button here. Now, there is quite a bit of setup, not quite a bit of setup involved, but there is some setup involved in the gateway itself. Now, there are a certain amount of steps that have to be followed. You have to create the VCN, you have to create the subnet, you have to add to the routing table, you have to create a security list, etc., a network security group, and so on. But it's all in my blog. If you go to my blog, it's the 999th post, and it tells you exactly blow by blow what you have to do to get this up and running. Now, with the export import, the export import is very, very simple as well. One of the things to know, like, this is essentially Gen 2 parity as well. Let's go back. Sorry, let me go into this guy here. So if we look here, you will see under settings, you will see the two new menu options, storage and import export. So storage is just specifying, you know, which storage do I want to actually use for this. So if you look here, you will see that I can have a bucket there for this thing here. And what I do is I'll just log into that, cloud.oracle.com. So we'll be able to go in there and have a look at that in a moment. Says here. So that should be good there. Yes. And two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication will probably come in here now, but here. It does indeed. Look, I have my phone beside me. It's one of those things that, yes, here we go. And allow that guy in there. Okay, so here I have it here. Now, one of the things to note here, this is just simply the format of the URL is Swift object storage dot your data center, your tenancy, and your bucket. And then when you're putting in your username password, it's not just your normal OIC username password. You have to put it in this format, Oracle Identity Cloud Service / username. And then the password is an OAuth token that you get as a user here. So like you kind of go in here, you click on that guy, go to user settings, and you will see down below here, there it is here, auth token. And I called my one here object storage token, just to let you know, just in case you're spending time saying, why does this thing not work? So now we've created that link there to that. And if I look up here and I go to buckets, you will see there's the bucket. So there is our bucket. It's called the 2312 export bucket. And as you can see, the 2312 export bucket should be empty, which it is. Okay, nothing in there. And then I just go in here and I go to import export. And now I can start the export here. And I do export and export security artifacts. And I say, OIC 3 before Christmas. Okay, good, export. Okay, so there's something wrong there. This is great with these live ones here. Essentially, here's one I did earlier, which actually completed. And what's very, very nice here is you actually get a detailed report of what was exported, etc. So just going back to the slide here, you will see afterwards, next slide here. Yeah, this is, you click on your download detailed report, and then you see exactly nice JSON structure saying exactly what has been exported there, your integrations, your connections, etc., etc. Now, with Rosetta Net support, now Rosetta Net is very popular, I think, in the tech industry, for B2B, and RNIF is Rosetta Net implementation framework, I think. And when we look here at the PIPs, these are like kind of business processes. So Rosetta Net is more than just the document definition. It is the definition of the business process itself. And one of the things here that you say, okay, what are the format, or what do we need for this? Well, we need the new Rosetta Net connection, which I mentioned earlier. And then it's the ability to create a schema. And there's Rosetta Net 3A4, which is related to orders. And this is purchase order confirmation. And then you see there's another one here for purchase order requests. Now, those schemas from a Rosetta Net perspective are based on XML schemas. And they are then the basis for your documents. So within B2B, you have the schema, which is, this is the definition of this canonical document, which is the purchase order request, for example. And then I can go in and create a document which will actually be used in the communication between the trading partners. So, company X sends such a document to their supplier, for example. Okay. Now, that's just showing you an example of the Rosetta Net XSD. And when we look at Edifact, which is essentially text-based, this is XSD-based. There. Okay, now, within OCI process, I don't know how many of you have actually looked at that, but there are many new features in there as well with 2312. One of the ones there is recipes. So, okay, within process, we don't have as many recipes as in integration. I think with integration, we're over 100 or much more than that. Here, we've got a handful of recipes to begin with. But as you can see here, you have the ability to create application from a recipe, which makes it very, very easy, of course, to get started if this is your particular use case here. Now, you can well imagine over time, more and more of these recipes will be made available, and you will be able to specify, your application as a recipe going forward as well there. Now, another new feature in 2312 process is the ability to create standalone decision applications. So this is making business rules or decisions a first-class citizen in OPA. Now, this is very interesting because it makes it much easier for external clients to call decision services directly. Now, these decisions, like many of them are like Excel tables from a design perspective. You can create very complex rules, for example, complex discounting rules for your purchase orders very, very easily with this tool. But of course, it can be applied to whatever use case you have. So, enabling, making it easy to have just one decision application which can be used standalone, so to speak, instead of having it embedded in a process application with other artifacts is very compelling. And of course, it makes it easy to reuse decision services across multiple process applications. But again, this is not just for process. These decisions are REST enabled and can be invoked by third-party clients, also OIC, etc. It also allows process applications to interact with multiple decision models. So that's another use case that we have here when we have it standalone, so to speak. And of course, for designers, more control when they're designing their decisions, because they've nobody else, they've no processes to be concerned about. It's just pure focus on the business rules. And of course, they can decide then on how this will be deployed, etc., etc. So again, another compelling new compelling feature for process in OIC3. Now, there are some other features there that are very interesting. For example, enhanced business search. Now, that's something that was included in the product, I think, in 2308 and 2310. Now, within 2312, it's also available in the workspace tracking UI. So this makes it much easier from a process perspective to actually, track particular process flows, for example, order approvals, using business search, searching for a particular order number or a particular product or a particular customer or a particular date, whatever business field you need to search with there. Another new feature is mid-process receive with correlation support. So of course, this is something that we're used to from SOA Suite, Beeple, and so on, and BPM Suite, of course. But the ability to say, okay, the process makes a async request and then waits or kind of sleeps until it gets its response. And with this mid-process receive, of course, we have the correlation support, so that we are responding to the correct callback, so to speak. Now, document understanding form control. Now, that was introduced, I think, in 2308 within process. And of course, the idea here is to have a form control that reads in some information and intelligently parses it for you. Now, the demos that we were showing there earlier for this were for driver's license and a passport, for example. Now, this is very interesting, for example, for process use cases for hiring employees or something like that. But this has been augmented, this form control, with support for invoices and receipts. So this is using our OCI AI service document understanding to actually kind of parse these documents and pull out the salient information. So this is another great value add, and seeing just how important it is for us to be part of OCI and all of these other compelling services that we can leverage so easily. Okay, we've error event sub-process support, and this is a global catch-all or scope level handler as well. So just making it more effective, your error handling within your processes, and human task escalation support. Now, of course, this could be manual or time-based. So it's easy enough within the UI, then the process workspace UI now, to actually escalate manually. Or else we could do this time-based. So at design time, you specify escalation after 5 working days or whatever there. And finally there, process level open API spec. Now this is very interesting as well, is the fact that when you do activate your process, you do get an open API spec for that process. So this could be very useful for you to pass on to clients or whatever who need to be able to integrate with this or to call this process. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to look into another new feature here. And I'm sorry for going so quickly, but there's just an awful lot to be said within the 1 hour. And I see there's questions there, which I will get to later. But let's look at Fusion Event Monitoring. So, excuse me here, back into demo mode here. So let's go in here and let's go to observability. And let's go in here to Fusion applications. So here is a new menu option here called Fusion applications. Now, so what is the whole idea here? The whole idea here is to give you the Fusion view of how its events are being processed by OIC. So within Fusion apps, for example, Fusion ERP, there are a plethora of business events such as purchase order created, service request created, etc. And of course, we can create integrations that have as a trigger the ERP adapter, and it's configured to subscribe to that event. For example, purchase order created or service request created, for example. Now, what we see here is, and when clicking on this particular link here, you will see here, here's my purchase order event, for example, and let's go in and let's look for the last 3 days, for example. Might see something else here, and we see here, So you can see the purchase order event and the service request created event. So these are 2 events where I've got integrations waiting for these guys here. We see I've got one integration subscribed to this Fusion event. I have another integration subscribed to this Fusion event. And here we see the different status, or stati, I suppose I should say. Now, this is again, from a Fusion apps perspective. So, okay, I have zero, from a Fusion Apps perspective, I've nothing queued for OIC. In other words, they've been delivered. I see how many have been delivered. And in the case of retries, I could see how many times have I retried. Now, when might a retry be necessary? Well, I engineered a retry and actually it maxed out in that I actually deactivated this integration here. So of course, from a Fusion Apps perspective, I'm still retrying to get that event processed by OIC. But after a certain amount of time, I will actually go in here and I will actually max out then. So when it happens like that, I can actually go in very easily there. And you can see, okay, I was unable to invoke this endpoint, yeah, because the fact that it was deactivated. So I could reactivate that integration, then just click on this guy here, and I could click retry again here. So this is very, very compelling. And again, it's from a Fusion Apps perspective. If we go up a level here, you will see as well, sorry, kind of a long-term view of this. And just do a refresh on this here. So this is something that you see over a period of, a much, much longer period of time. Here we're saying it's the last 3 days, for example. This is since we started activating those integrations, so to speak. So this is exceedingly useful because it was a reason many people were a bit reticent about using for example, the OIC ERP adapter to subscribe to business events, because they thought, do you know what? I don't know if those things will be picked up and I've no visibility into it. Now you have that visibility. Okay. So back to our slides again. Now, the Fusion event monitoring, I think it's very, very simple there. You've seen what's on offer. And if you want to get more details, I've a dedicated blog post on that as well that goes through exactly what I've showed you there. And that's just some more screenshots showing you things there. Now, OIC for healthcare. Now, OIC for healthcare, you can see here we've got a new core capability. Many folks might think, okay, Oracle has bought Cerner, Oracle is investing heavily in the healthcare space, but it doesn't really affect me. But there are many healthcare use cases that also go above and beyond kind of like the clinical environment, so to speak. Like, just think of an example where you have maybe paying patients, non-residents who are having operations in a medical in a hospital, and they are being treated as customers from a economic or from a commercial perspective, and there has to be an integration, for example, between the clinical environment and ERP, could be Fusion ERP or whatever. So there are use cases for this as well. So it's not just all within clinical, within the healthcare environment, so to speak. There are also kind of these horizontal use cases that cover healthcare maybe and an ERP, for example. But just to let you know, we do have this core, this capability here. And once we look at it here, you will see that the first level of support that we've provided here is for HL7. So HL7 is like the B2B document standard for healthcare, along with FHIR. So FHIR is pronounced FHIR, which is like kind of the next iteration of HL7. And you will see here that HL7 works very closely with MNLP as transport, where FHIR is more REST-based here. But again, let's have a quick look at this here. Very, very similar, as I said, to B2B. So let's go back up here and let's look in, let's go to here. You see healthcare. Let's go home. So we see the home page, all of the recipes and accelerators, and we go now to healthcare. So again, we have the concept of schemas and documents. Now, so a schema in this case would be, for me, I have created a schema for ADT A01 custom. Now, this is a document. If we look at it here, this is what it actually looks like. This is, patient registration. I think this is here. So you can see there's the Good Health Hospital, whatever. We've got someone, Adam Everyman is the patient. He's got an address here. And there's the next of kin is Nelda Nuclear, what a lovely name, and whatever. But you get the idea here. So we have this schema which is defining a particular document type. For example, as I say, patient registration. And then we have concrete documents that are then used in the integrations. And there is my document here. And as you can see, it's this guy here. If we look at the document, you can see it's based on this schema. Now, of course, the schema here. So just going back into that schema. Let's go into this guy here. You see the different segments and whatever here. And of course, this is where you need a knowledge of HL7. But of course, this is kind of like the standard definition. But many institutions or organizations would maybe have their own fields here. So you may want to add new child elements, new segments, delete a segment, etc., depending on what your trading partner is using as their standard in this space here. So there's a standard document here. You can go in and amend it to suit your customer's needs in this respect here. And then we have here within OIC, if we just go in here to the integrations, you will see here, I have this nice little integration here called MLLP trigger. And this MLLP trigger, it's using the MLLP adapter, so to speak, and then it's going to use our healthcare action here to actually translate that message coming in, which is actually in text format, we've seen it here, into an XML representation of that, and then allowing that for future for further processing. Now, what this integration actually does here, it actually checks this one here. It checks, translates the message to make sure it's a valid HL7 message, and then actually assigns the message or assigns the target based on the HL7 message type. So I have this, pre-processing integration that accepts in the HL7 message, checks that it's a valid HL7 message, and then routes it according to the message type. So this one is called ADT01 patient registration. That goes to a particular integration, and that integration could update different departments within the hospital, for example, where if it's a different HL7 message, for example, patient discharge or whatever, then that would be routed somewhere else. So I'm just going to show you a very simple example of this. Now, to use this, I'm using what's known as this little tool called HL7 Inspector, which allows me to send messages to OIC in this respect. And as you can see here, this is sending the messages, and I can also, in this one here, receive messages. Now, what this example is actually doing here is I'm going to send this to my receiving integration, or this pre-processor. That's going to route it to another integration which processes the patient registration, and then that sends back a message to this client here. So if I go in here and if everything's working fine, I go up here to the Send tab here. So am I in the Send tab? Send, let's receive message. Let's go to the send message. So I click on this guy here, and I will see here, I've sent it and I've got an acknowledgement. And if I go to the receive tab, right there, I should be receiving seeing a message coming back here as well. And there it is there. And you will see here, there has been some changes to this one here that I've put in acknowledgement here. You will see something from OIC Hospital. I think I called it here. I called it something. Yeah, sorry, Commiskey Healthcare Limited. So just showing you what's actually happening here. So again, very, very simple example of this processing this HL7 message. Now, of course, again, all I'm doing in this simple example is routing it to another integration. And there it is here, the ADT01 processor. And all that guy is doing is actually then going back and converting the XML response to a HL7 message and sending it back to that client that I've just showed you there. So just a very, very simple example of using that there. Now, the magic sauce in all of this here is, of course, the new, just go in here for a sec, just to show you, the new actions here. So we have an MNLP adapter, and then we go in here. You will see here the new healthcare features here, which are here, healthcare there. And again, just while we're here, just go back in and show you, of course, the interoperability with other OCI services such as functions and object storage available here out of the box as well as support here for publishing events, OIC events, and so on. Now, I know we've gone through quite a lot there, and I hope I haven't burdened you too much, but just finishing up on the healthcare edition is, this will be a new edition of OIC. So starting with version 2402, this will be a new edition. So customers can actually buy OIC for healthcare, which would be like enterprise edition plus healthcare, and specific capabilities for the healthcare industry. Other things that, just in case you are from that area, we know there are other standards there like CDA and DICOM and X12 HIP-IA. All of these other standards will be supported very shortly as well within this healthcare component of OIC. Okay, so we've gone through that. Schema editors, healthcare action, I've shown you that. The MNLP adapter, well, we've actually used that when we started that little demo from HL7 Inspector. And we have a very, very rich roadmap for the healthcare as well. So if any of you are interested in that, please contact Jürgen and myself. We would be happy for you to help you get on board with that thing here. So 2003, okay, 2023 was a great year for OIC. And I just like to, I know myself from all of the work that we have done in here, we have produced great features and so on. But as I say, it has been driven by you, our customers, and like a very, very big thank you to you from all of us in product management and engineering. Wishing you all a very happy holiday period and health, wealth, and wisdom for everybody in 2024. And hopefully the world will be an even better place then. Now, Jürgen, do we have many questions?
Yes, we have, Niall. Thanks for the lovely presentation and the wonderful demos. So if you would like to learn more about Oracle integration, please visit the website oracle.com/integration. Make use of the documentation and the labs to build your free trial and to build a proof of concept. There are plenty of blogs out there, like Niall's blog is excellent. There's the official blog at blogs.oracle.com/integration, and you can also look up my own blog at Past Community. You find all that information also in the quarterly newsletter. Please subscribe and read the newsletter. With that, let's go to the Q&A question.
Okay,
so do we have an adapter for Microsoft Dynamics?
Microsoft Dynamics, we have a partner, Advancco, who has such an adapter. I see another question, like I'm going through, okay, regarding the integration of OIC with OCI logging. Payloads greater than 10K. Yes, that's something, Boris, that we are actually working on with our colleagues there as well, payload greater than 10K for logging. Okay, so that is something that's on the roadmap.
Can you give an overview of projects and how to use it?
Okay, so when we're looking at projects, folks, projects are one way of dividing out the work between OIC developers or OIC development teams. Projects are also RBAC supported, resource-based access control. So you can specify who can work on which project. So this is very, very useful when you say, I have different groups of OIC developers. I want them to use the same OIC instance, but I don't want them seeing the stuff, the projects of the other teams, for example. So it's very, very useful in such cases. It's also very, very useful to provide you with a, like instead of logging into OIC and seeing 700 integrations appear before you, to have just organizational as an organizational tool as well. So for organization purposes, for RBAC purposes, very, very useful, and it's something that we are now standardizing on. So we are hoping that all of our customers will use projects. Okay.
Okay, next question from Mike. When will OIC extended storage become available?
Now, extended storage, if we're talking about extended storage for for like, okay, I'm just wondering if this is
want-
for the activity stream. If it is for the
We
activity
want
stream
to be
where we
able
have
to retain EDI messages.
okay, yeah, that is something, yes, that we are working on. This is something that should be available within the next 1 or 2 releases. Is the ability to have this additional storage for, that's a very good point. It's from a B2B perspective, and there's 2 things to consider here is, okay, the size of the documents and the retention period. Like we do have, for example, from healthcare, we have requested a retention period of at least half a year. And today we do 32 days. So this is something that will be offered to OIC customers in the very, very near future. Next question, please, Jürgen.
From Jay, he would like to know if you can export and import content between Oracle integration instances.
Yes. Now I showed you there the global export import functionality. That's Gen 2 parity that we've included now in the 23.12 release. So you can do it that way. In other words, you can say, you know, it's all export all, import all, or else, of course, you can do it singly, like, or say integration for integration yourself, or based on projects. Next question.
How asks, is OIC 3 going to be available for custom host names?
That is something that should be, we're looking at, I think it's the April release for that, April 24. I think that's the target for that.
Okay. The next question is OIC, we have no security policy for REST and SOAP triggers. Is that available in OIC 3?
Yes, you can. Of course, you can specify a plethora of the security policies in OIC for REST triggers, for example. You know, 3-legged OAuth, whatever you want, you can specify there. But of course, you can also have that fronted through the OCI API gateway as well. So we support it within OIC, but some folks even go further and put, you know, WAF or API gateway before OIC as well. Next question.
Okay. Next question. For the OIC service console, are there any network access restrictions?
Yes. No, like this is a question. If you could ask that person to send me an email on that, because that's something I just want to check up on myself as well. Here it is. What we're trying to do is and please just include us in the email. Are you trying to say only certain folks should have access to the OIC page in the OCI console? Please just list your exact requirements there, and I will get back to you after Christmas on that.
Okay, wonderful. In Fusion applications, how do you activate there an OIC instance, which is 23.12?
Well,
I believe that question is if it's a SaaS queue.
Yeah, well, see, like it depends on what we have here. We have here with Fusion, if you've bought the OIC for SaaS queue, that'll be available within your Fusion tenancy. And so it is a case of just going into your Fusion tenancy, your cloud.oracle.com, logging in there, going to the menu, developer services, and then you should see integration, and then you will have the ability to actually provision your OIC instance there based on 1 million message packs per month.
Okay. If you have questions, you can still post them in the Q&A tool or raise your hand and we can unmute you. The next question is from Reddy. He would like to know more about private endpoints.
Well, private endpoints, essentially, we have a plethora of adapters, and I say about maybe 10 of them now support private endpoints. Now, the private endpoint support is essentially for these resources running on OCI. So that could be ATP, that could be Fusion apps, that could be looking at the moment. Now, going forward with private endpoints, the idea would be to say, okay, how can we leverage such for intra-cloud, or say inter-cloud requests, you know, like with Azure, AWS, and so on. And then maybe the next step will be then, okay, how about using private endpoints to include OIC as part of a virtual network with the customer's data center? So today, focused on particular technologies and apps running on OCI. Going forward, looking at apps and technologies running on other clouds and the customer's data center. Okay.
Okay, next question is on ERP events. Can you filter them or any plans?
Yes, you can. Now, like there's two aspects of this. Like if you see some of these events are very granular, like or relatively granular, so to speak. So if I for service requests, for example, within Fusion, I have an event, service request created, service request updated, service request deleted. For purchase orders, I just have a purchase order event. And then this purchase order event within the ERP adapter, I can actually filter that for, is it a create? And for example, from a payload perspective, is it an order value greater than €1,000 or something like that? So the answers are like these events, you have to look at how granular they are from a Fusion Apps perspective. And then within the Fusion ERP adapter configuration in OIC, when you're configuring this as a trigger, you are able to put in then a filter to filter on a particular field or whatever, or operation in the case of the purchase order. Okay.
Next question is also on events. So in Fusion applications, supplier and invoice information events can be monitored. Is it possible to also monitor FBDI callback events?
No. See, like this is what we're looking at here is the Fusion business events. Now, the FBDI callback events, that will be something, if that person could write me an email and just mention that in the email to me, and I'll check with my colleagues if we have that on the radar as well, because that would make sense as well.
Okay. Email notifications within Oracle integration, can they include attachments over 10 megabytes?
No, I don't think so. Like that's again is something. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Now the question will be, why do I need such attachments? But like there could be, of course, there could be good reasons for that. With the, again, that might be a question. If that person could actually just send me that as an email, because that's not my particular area of responsibility, so I can't check on that. So please do that.
Talking about file size, for the file server, how can we increase storage from 500 gigabytes to a terabyte?
Oh, that is something that we're looking at as well. That is something that's on our roadmap. So the ability kind of, bring your own storage for that. And like storage is very, very cheap. So that should be very compelling for customers. So we're looking at that over the next couple of releases as well.
And any plans to provide integration code editing?
No, I don't think so, because like if you look, like one of the benefits of our platform is the fact it's very, very easy to use. And there's no very slight learning curve to OIC compared to other products in this space. And then when you export an integration, and if you open that ER file on your local, on your laptop or whatever, you will see it contains a huge amount of config files. And opening them up for editing is not a good idea. Because first of all, you have to know, what do these config files actually do? And there's a plethora of them there, so you really need to know exactly what you're doing. The only code editing we allow at the moment is at the mapper. So you can go in, you can edit the XSLT that we generate for you. Next question.
Any plan to enable MDS on VBCS? I think we have to ask Shay Smeltzer on that one.
Yeah, that's not something in my area of responsibility. So Nick, if you send me an email about that, we can actually get that answered for you.
Yeah, it's the VBCS team, and you can contact Shay Smeltzer. Is there any way to monitor Fusion callback failures?
Now that again is something that we just mentioned there with the FBDI callbacks. So that's something that we don't have that as yet, but that is something that would be very interesting in implementing as part of this Fusion applications view of things in OIC. So thanks for the tip on that. We will definitely look into it, but it's not, as far as I know, it's not on our roadmap currently.
Anything you want to talk about roadmap on generative AI?
Okay, we are looking from a roadmap perspective, using generative AI to generate integrations from text. You know, like you write your text, say, oh, I want to pick up, I want all new orders from Salesforce, and I want to push them to, say, new opportunities or closed opportunities from Salesforce, and I want to push them to my ERP, for example, NetSuite. And the idea we would generate a skeleton integration that actually does that for you. Now, but we're also looking at AI in respect of, you know, AI-driven mapping and AI for anomaly detection. So we're looking at in different areas, not just in design time, you know, design time guardrails or whatever, but also in respect of runtime for anomaly detection and so on.
Okay. We introduced today a lot of integration features and adapters for the healthcare. What do we have in higher education?
In higher education, that is something that is very good. If you can let us know, like again, just send me an email with the names of the apps for which you would like to have adapters, and we can definitely start looking at that as well. Now, of course, healthcare is a big area for us because it's a big area for Oracle. But higher education is, you know, is a big area for everybody as well. So please just send me a list of the apps to which you would like to have adapters, and I'll see what we can do in that respect.
Okay. Oracle process automation is not available in integration 3. How can you activate it?
Okay. OPA is there. Like, so there's two things to look at. When you actually spin up an Oracle OIC3 Enterprise Edition or OIC3, in OCI, you go to the OIC page and you will see, okay, process is not enabled per default. You just have to click a button and then the process instance will be generated for, or will be provisioned for you. Now, compared to Gen 2, this is a separate instance. So this is something, it's kind of like an associated service of your OIC there. So from a general usage perspective, in OIC 3, you have to explicitly enable process. Now, within OIC 3 as well, there's no action to easily call a process from an integration. So currently you have to do that via REST, which is a little bit of work, but it's not that much. But that is something that's been addressed as well from a parity perspective. Next question.
Yeah, on upgrades from OIC 2 to OIC generation 3, how does it work? And the second part of the question, what happens if they used PubSub?
Okay, so if you're using PubSub, you will be upgraded to OIC 3 events. So OIC 3 events, I think, is something we covered in the last webcast. We can cover it again, maybe in the next one again, just showing, going through it. It's essentially the same idea. Yeah, you have an event, you can publish it, and you can subscribe to it. So that's what's happening with Gen 2 PubSub. It's going to OIC 3 events. Now, the upgrade per se, how does that actually happen? Well, in OIC Gen 2, there is a screen within your design time where you can check your eligibility for upgrades. And if you're eligible, you will be offered different slots. You choose one of those slots, and then you will get your environment upgraded. Now, the upgrade itself, it's 99% Oracle, 1% customer. And if you look at the documentation online, you will see exactly what the responsibilities of the customer are. One responsibility, for example, is do nothing in your OIC environment for a certain amount of time before the actual upgrade. And afterwards, there are a couple of things that you actually have to do, but it's very, very limited. So 99% of the work has been done by us. The 1% is done by you. And please look at the upgrade documentation to see exactly how this works and what your responsibilities are. Even if it is just a 1%, you have to know about it. Next question.
Niall, that was excellent. We answered almost all the questions. So
perfect, perfect. And again, Jürgen, I've just to say, everybody, a big thank you to Jürgen for organizing these, because he, you know, it is really great to have this interaction with you folks. And without Jürgen, that would not be possible. So Jürgen, thanks again for all of your sterling work during the year, and looking forward to 2024.
Thanks to you, Niall, also wonderful webcasts and lovely demos. If you have further questions, make use of our integration resources. I posted the link also in the chat and in the Q&A. You'll find all those links on the website. Make use of the resources and feel free to reach out to the team. Niall in EMEA, Paolo Mota in South America, Ravi Chaplani in North America, Ravi Pinto in India, Steve in Asia, and myself for any kind of partner events or customer activities. We wish you a Merry Christmas. 2023 was an astonishing, wonderful year with the Gartner leadership. So we hope that you also are moving to Oracle Integration 3. And we really would like to say thank you for being our customer and to grow your integrations platform. Once you leave the webcast, please complete the online survey and join us for the next webcast, March 21st. Thank you very much and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.